Good morning from the markets here. George, what's the name of the market here?
Pratt.
Okay, Pratt Markets. And I'm with an interesting feller here that I met named Arthur Apple. And he is...
He's self-publishing author of 10 books.
and he is originally from...
England, South London.
And I know Ann McIntyre is listening to this, and I'm sure you would be very interested in this fella. So I made this video for you, especially Ann. He has his books on his shirt. Is that cool or what? That he's written. And he has written some of his books during chemotherapy, correct?
Yeah.
And are your books online?
Yeah, my book's online on Amazon. If you pump up the name Arthur Apple, Google it, it'll come up and it'll tell you where my books are and what they are all about. This one here, this has already been in Hollywood. They're looking at turning this into it's written as a film script, and I published it at the same time.
The Life Has a View.
Yeah, it's about Aboriginal two female sisters who build a commune in middle of Australia after the world order collapses. It wasn't a war or nothing like that, and I wrote it as a script for a movie. I didn't get any pickups, but then last year I got a pickup from a company in America who deals with Netflix, and they came to me, they contacted me, and they made a pilot video, a small movie, a 10-minute Life
Has a View.
Yeah. All my books are offbeat black comedy crime books, except this one. This is Buff. This is the dog. Buff is chairman of the board. He has a meeting every day in the apple tree in the corner of the garden. All the dogs in the street, and they've all got different ranks and they've all got different positions, and they actually live their life like humans. Except it's all written through a dog's eyes. I found that quite different. And then these books, Dark Secret, is about a female in Darwin. She has breast cancer and she has to have her breast removed. And when she comes back, all she wants is a job back as an inspector. But her mentor says she can come back as chief of detectives. So it's a female in a man's world, and it's all based, especially around Pratt, first book. And you can use names of the streets and that, but you can't use names of the business. And it's a progress over 3 books. I wrote them through rain on the bed, feeling sorry for myself. During the chemo, I used to just write notes, and then eventually I had enough.
And
I didn't intend to write. I left the ending open. I didn't intend to write Dark Secret 2, and that was the same result with Dark Secret 3. I still thought there's a story in my head. Continuation.
wow. And this is his booth here at the markets.
Yeah.
And some of his books.
We're all self-publishing authors.
All these books on here are
all
self-publishing authors.
Yeah. And they actually live in Darwin.
And they are living in Darwin.
Yeah.
So
You see, we're a non-profit organisation. If you take your book to your bookshop to sell, they're going to take 40% of it. Here, we charge them $10 a month for rent. So, I mean, that's next to nothing. They cost you $9 for a cup of coffee here. So, I mean, $10.
well, I have another friend on here, if she watches this, the lady I told you about that helps people write books. And I think she'll be really interested in this. And I
get a lot of people come by and ask me how to go about it, how to find a publisher. You know.
Oh, wow.
Been there only for a few weeks because we've been a bit quiet, but now the dry season's come. Yeah.
Such a colorful character.
You have to grab the bull by the horns and just get on with the job. No good listening to people. You don't know, because I was told The reason I wrote this book was because they told me that crime books don't sell, but the biggest selling books in the world are crime books. But mine is written with black comedy. It's as much about the actual people who are in the book, the characters, than the actual crimes themselves. Crime seems to take second place, and then you wonder, then when you get into the story, you understand why they act like they do. The way I've written the book is that there's a different crime in every chapter, and they're only connected by the police themselves. It doesn't follow one theme all the way through.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. This is his booth here at the market.
The kids' books, we've got books down there about the virus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the kids' books look really interesting. These are the children's books. They're all $15. I love this one. The Girl Who Hated Mistakes. A story about the trouble that can come from getting what you want. I like that. These were good. Out of Lockdown.
You've got the girl and the virus.
Oh, The Girl and the Coronavirus.
And Out of Lockdown.
I like that.
The actual Damien is a doctor, and he treats, he does some psychology for Aboriginal youth. And the actual lady who does the artwork herself, she lives in Ukraine, of all places. We found her on the internet.
Ukraine.
Yeah. Alina. He draws stick people, and then she fills it all in. All her artworks are her own idea.
Well, another reason why I'm making this video is I have a friend, Anne. And Anne, I'm trying to encourage her to write her books. She's always had a heart's desire, and she's got many books in her. So maybe you're going to be the inspiration for her there,
Yes.
Harper, after she watches this YouTube video.
Yeah. The thing about my writing is that I don't actually plan. I just sit down and write, and then I suddenly stop at a page, and then I just finish up. I go back to it. I don't write. Oh, we've got to finish. Chapter 1's got to finish like this. It's going to open with so and so doing this. It doesn't work like that. It all just comes out of my head, and I don't know what the next page of the story is going to be. I always tell people it's like driving down the road and you suddenly turn left. Now eventually you're going to come back on that road, but when you turn left, you're going down this road, and then you might turn right again, and eventually you come back on the direction where you were. But on that way, it's 2 or 3 different stories and different characters. A lot of people in my books are actually based on actual real characters in life. I did know a lot of people in South London who used to live on the edge. I say live on the edge, on the outside of the law. So.
Like Charles Bukowski. He's one of my favorites. Bukowski. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I came to live in Melbourne, there was a lot of in the area where I lived, there was a lot of what people call bad guys around, but I didn't look at them like that. I just looked at them as characters who I just got on with. I didn't care what they did for a living. I didn't care about that sort of thing. Yeah.
So could you tell me, like you told me earlier that you started out in the UK and then you ended up here.
Yeah.
Where were some of the places that you lived while you were in Australia, meeting all these colorful characters?
Well, in Melbourne, and then I moved I went back to the UK. I was executive chef for American Express in Brighton, South Coast, for a couple of years. Then I brought a couple of pubs, and then I met very colourful characters. And then I came back here because my visa was
and I've still
I
got
couldn't
it.
let it go more than 4 years, otherwise they wouldn't let me back. I'll have to reapply again. And so I ended up going up to Halls Creek, what's in northern Western Australia, was mostly Aboriginal. There's a resort there. and then I went from there, Fitzroy Crossing, and then I came to Darwin. I based myself in Darwin. I went down to Alice Springs a couple of times. I worked in there, worked in Tennant Creek, it's another place, about halfway between here and, I say halfway, you know, it's a 12-hour drive. Distance up here, people say, oh, how do you work it out? I said, well, I work it out in 12-hour shifts. You're not supposed to drive more than 12 hours, and that's quite right. But I stop every couple of hours, stretch my legs and have a, you know, there's a petrol station or so, there's some sort of resort every 200k, so yeah, about 5 times during the day. I went across to Cairns, what was pretty good. It's like Darwin, except much bigger. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. But then I went right up to the top of Cape York, up to a place called Bamaga, and I worked in a resort up there. Everything in the actual town in Bamaga is owned by the Aboriginal people, and I was one of the few white people. I was the only person in the kitchen who was white, and I employed all these Aboriginal people who had no knowledge of what they're doing, even waiting. And the only other white people was a couple what used to run the place. But there's only 3 of us in it, and the other 40 staff were all local Aboriginal people in the town. It was really, I really enjoyed it. I used to go fishing every day. After breakfast I used to go off fishing, and then I'd come back. I didn't do lunch because I had someone else to do lunch, but then I'd come back about 3 o'clock to start the dinner. We used to do about 100 dinners a night. We used to have coach parties would come in. Because the way to get up there, they used to come in on the boat, then they tour the area, and then they go back. One group would come in and then the other group would go out. So we used to give them dinner and breakfast, and then another load would come back in the following night. It was pretty full on in the dry season.
Well, you had a
It was one of the things I loved about it, because I've always had an affinity with the Aboriginal people, and I do enjoy teaching them how to cook the Western way, and they gave me ideas about bush, because I was really into bush tucker. So I used to combine my food. What bush, we do a lot of kangaroo and barramundi and camel. Camel was a bit, you know, it's a strange thing, you either like it or you don't. But the buffalo was tough. It's served buffalo on the menu. Which what the people wanted, the tourists, they wanted to come here. They didn't want to eat European food, they wanted to eat Australian food. Yeah, it was a great time. And a lot of that gave me inspiration later in my life to incorporate that in the books. There's a lot of Aboriginal characters in the books that are based on real people. You can't use their name. They're based on people I met, and their outlook on life is completely different to theirs. Very hard. They're not all sit around the backsides drinking beer all day long. They're actually hard-working people.
Yeah, I just want to encourage all my friends that watch this video from around the world. There are many of you that I'm going to tag in this that are going to be encouraged by this. Robert Rutherford, especially you, I've been encouraging you to write books because your stories are like this man, but in a different kind of way. You're like Arthur Apple, and Arthur, you are.
There's my logo on the back.
Oh wow! Look at this.
It's a logo with a bite out of the apple.
Do you have any tips for any of my friends on here that are just sort of sitting on the fence about writing books that are full of stories right now?
Yeah, just get on and do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean that's what I did. I love spare time, and so I just started to write. As I say, I don't have a theme. I often wake up during the night for and I dream the actual story in my head of the next part to write the next day. I know that sounds strange.
No,
But
it doesn't sound strange to
I
me.
don't get a pad and write it down because I remember it, but I always reach a point. It's like driving that car. You reach a point at a crossroads and you wonder which way the story's going to go. And sometimes when I look back at the books and I open a book and I read the page, I thought, who the hell wrote this? He's got a very sick mind.
No, I can't wait to look inside of your books.
How the hell did he think of this, you know?
Yeah.
Especially the Dark Secret trilogy, that turned out completely off, out of my world. I just never thought, because I was writing it through the dark, that's the eyes, you see, that's the female's eyes. Right, you're right, I'm writing through her eyes. I'm writing the story through a female's eyes. What is quite hard being a male, but she had a lot of balls. They wanted her to put the old police force back in, because they're all male dominated, and they wanted her to kick some ass. But along the way, she has a lot of, in her personal life, her children are not the best characters in the world. She's got a son and 2 daughters, and always a husband. So it's all this common, and the actual people what work with her. There's a lot of some Aboriginal police officers in there, and as the story goes on, and she actually goes up the ladder, she actually gets promoted, but she doesn't want to sit behind the desk and shuffle papers. She likes to be out in the action.
That's great. I just really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule here at the markets and sharing. And I want to encourage all my friends to go to Amazon and look for some of these.
Yeah, Arthur Apple. Yeah, look for my books on Google. See, my books are Fun in Motion, The Fear of a Thriller, with suspense making and very quirky characters. All my characters in my books are really quirky.
Wow, and these are all characters that came in and out of his life in the book of Arthur. In that book within him came these stories. I'm going to tag some of my book reading friends and some of my soon-to-be authors. I appreciate you here at the market sharing your story.
Yeah.
And you have a great day. And
Thank you very much.
thanks for doing that.